Jake Stuart with the National Sports Media Association, and today I'm joined by 2021 Rhode Island Sportscaster of the Year, Morey Hershgordon. Now, Morey, I want to ask you first off, congratulations on your award. I want to ask you now, you cover Rhode Island sports primarily for Fox 12 or Fox Rhode Island, excuse me. And I want to ask you, a lot of your coverage is for the Friars, but you're able to cover, teams like the Red Sox, the Bruins, the Patriots, and obviously the Celtics as well. What is it like to cover such big teams in such a big market?
Yeah, it's great. Thanks for having me on. We really get to cover sports at all levels, right? We get to cover the Patriots in Foxborough. We're only 25 minutes from there. And then we get to cover the Boston professional teams. And then in the college ranks, like you mentioned, we get to cover the PC Friars who went to the Sweet 16. And we also get to cover three other Division I schools in Brown, Bryant, and the University of Rhode Island. And then we also have a 30-minute high school football show on Friday nights. So we really get to touch on all three levels, which makes this market so unique, in my opinion.
Now, you've been working for Fox Providence since 2018. I wanted to ask you as well, coming into this industry, what made you want to be a sportscaster?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a long story, but I'll keep it short. My maternal grandfather was blind, had a recessive gene that took his vision when he was around 40 years old. And then I was born about 3 decades ago, and our love for sports became me going over to his house a lot of the time and muting the television and giving him play-by-play, giving him in-game reports and sideline stand-ups. So it was really nurtured and cultivated at a really young age. And I'll always say he was my first audience. So I was doing games for him at 5, 6 years old, and that's really where the passion started.
What an incredible story. That's so awesome and so unique as well. This is your first award from the National Sports Media Association. What does it mean to you to be recognized?
Oh, I mean, it's a tremendous award. Super grateful that I was voted by my peers and colleagues in the market, and just alongside of a lot of talented broadcasters out there and sports writers as well from around the country. So it's an award for them just as much as it is for me, and can't wait to get to North Carolina and celebrate all of our success.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to be excited to have you in Winston as well this summer. I wanted to ask you, who are some of your favorite sportscasters growing up? And, it can be now or could just be when you first got into the industry.
Yeah, sure. So there's plenty that influence, whether it's TV, radio, or even, guys that I read in the newspaper growing up. I'm from the greater Philadelphia area. So a couple people that come to mind are Howard Eskin. He's called the King of Philadelphia for a reason. He's been doing it for decades upon decades, and he's been doing it on all different types of platforms. And I was fortunate enough to intern under him at the Fox affiliate there for a couple summers when I interned at Fox 29 Philadelphia, and still consider him a mentor to this day. So he's definitely one that stands out in my mind. And I like to model kind of who I am after him. He's somebody that always shows up. He's in the locker room. He's in press conferences, regardless of wins or losses, and just a guy that works really hard. And that he'll show up and be in front of athletes' faces and get the respect that way through his hard work.
Now, we've been asking our winners this next question. We kind of received a wide range of answers. How much did COVID affect your work, Morey, in the past couple of years, if at all?
Yeah, it greatly had an effect on my work, Jake. We were home for 3 months when it happened in March of 2020. My boss and I at the time were ready to get down to New York City for the Big East tournament. When we pulled the plug, I think it was that Tuesday night or Wednesday night in March of 2020. So then we're home for about 90 days. And there's definitely some benefits that have come with it. When there's guests that can't come in studio or can't make a show, we can always Zoom them in live, sort of how we're doing it right now. And a lot of people have used Zoom and have used Skype and other social platforms to be able to participate in shows or hold interviews when you can't meet face to face. But it definitely made a big impact, and we're still sort of navigating those obstacles right now. It is good news, though, that we're going to be allowed back into a locker room like the Patriots this upcoming fall, because there's nothing like being able to talk to the athletes and the coaches face to face, one-on-one in those intimate settings, or maybe you get some better answers than you do when it's over the computer.
No, my next question was kind of off of what you just mentioned. I want to ask you, how do you deal with a coach like Bill Belichick? Somebody that as a journalist can be a pain sometimes. Somebody tough to deal with that doesn't always give you the answers that you want. How do you deal with that, and how do you, still make it out to be a great story?
Yeah, I think it starts with just being fair. I think when he sees that you're at practice or he sees that you're on the Zoom calls all the time, he knows that you care about his team and care about covering his team, and I think that's sort of when he gives some of his best answers. But I think it all starts about being fair and asking questions that not only will make his team look good in a certain light, but also asking questions after maybe a tough loss. About strategy or about something that maybe he did in a game. But it's a privilege to be able to cover one of the greatest sports coaches in American sports history, and to be able to do it on a daily basis has been great. And I'm looking forward to year 4 coming up.
Well, this next one could be a tough one, Morey, but I wanted to ask you, you've been able to cover some pretty awesome experiences and some great games. What's been, maybe if you had to pick a game and a player that have been like your favorite to cover up to this point, who would you pick?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There's a lot of them. I would say in this market, I think the run that the Bruins had to the Stanley Cup final in 2019 was special. I was able to be in St. Louis and travel back and forth, whether it was the TD Garden or Enterprise Center in St. Louis during that series. So those games come to mind. I think the Bruins won that game 3, like 7-1, and that arena was dead silent in game 3. And game 1, they won in overtime. And it's funny, a former classmate of mine at Quinnipiac University, where I went to college, Connor Clifton, got called up, was with the Bruins during that playoff run, and actually scored the first goal of that Stanley Cup final series. So that was unique. And that always kind of comes to mind because it was a few years ago and really one of the last big events that we got to cover pre-pandemic. Now we're sort of coming out of the mud of the pandemic right now. And hopefully there's many more memories and great games to cover.
That's such an incredible, moment you picked, and here's to hoping that the Bruins can continue their run as well as the Celtics, who just got the sweep last night. Well, the last question I want to ask you, and thank you so much for your time and for being here, is what advice do you have for our younger sportscasters and our listeners just looking to get into the industry now?
I think my biggest piece of advice would just be get out there and get reps, right? It's no different than if you're playing a sport, right? If you want to be a shortstop of your favorite baseball team or a guard of your favorite basketball team, the best way you get out there and improve is taking 500 ground balls a day, getting up 500 shots. It's no different in our business, right? The more that if you want to become a play-by-play broadcaster, the more games that you cover for your local middle school, high school teams, and then when you get to the college level, the more that you do, the more experience you have. And then I tell my interns all the time at our shop, the only difference is that you're getting a paycheck, right? You're still going to have an audience. Sure, there's going to be some more eyeballs on your work. You'll get a paycheck that helps you live and pay your bills. But other than that, it's the same thing, right? Baseball field's the same size, basketball court's the same size. The rules are primarily the same from level to level. There might be some tweaks here or there, but you can't take the place. You can't learn in a class how to broadcast the game. You have to go and do it. So the more chances that you give yourself, the more opportunities you create for yourself, and the more games that you do, you'll only be better and better. If you get to do 2 or 3 games a week, well, in a month, that's 8 to 12 games you'll be better at than you were at the first of the month. So there's definitely no taking the place of getting out there and getting those reps.
I love that advice from our 2021, Rhode Island Sportscaster of the Year. Morey, we look forward to seeing you in Winston this summer, and thank you again for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'll see you guys in North Carolina.
Absolutely. We can't wait.